You spend hours reading about tummy time, you buy the flashcards, the black and white mobiles, the app that promises accelerated development for $12 a month. You do all of it because somewhere you got the message that building your baby's brain is expensive, complicated, and mostly your partner's department. Here's what almost nobody tells new fathers. Some of the most important brain-building work isn't done by a toy or an app or even mostly by mom. It's done by you in ways researchers only recently started paying attention to. For decades, child development studies barely looked at fathers at all. Mom was the subject. Dad was an afterthought. The helper, the backup, the one who stepped in when someone needed a break. Then researchers at institutions like Cambridge and Imperial College London started filming fathers playing with their infants and testing those same children years later. And what they found quietly rewrote the textbook. Babies whose fathers were more engaged during play, more tuned in, more responsive, were doing measurably better on thinking and problem-solving skills by the time they turned 2. Not because those fathers were doing extra chores or reading more flashcards or buying anything at all. Because of something happening in ordinary, unscripted moments. A look, a reach, a sound answered with another sound. And it wasn't standing in for what mom was already giving. It was something separate. Something only showing up because dad was there, tuned in, present. So what is that something? Researchers have a name for it now. A specific kind of interaction that seems to belong, more often than not, to fathers. It's called the activation relationship. And once you understand what it actually is, you'll never look at bath time, or bedtime wrestling, or 5 minutes on the living room floor the same way again.
Picture a baby, maybe 8 months old, sitting on the floor. Dad walks in, gets down low, and instead of handing over a toy, he lifts the baby straight up over his head. The baby shrieks, half thrill, half surprise, legs kicking, eyes wide. Down he comes. Up he goes again. Mom in the next room might wince a little at the noise, but something important is happening in that shriek. Psychologist Daniel Paquette spent years studying exactly this kind of play, and he found a pattern. Where a mother's wand with her baby often centers on comfort, a safe place to return to when things feel too big, a father's bond often centers on the opposite: challenge, novelty, a gentle push just past the edge of comfortable while staying completely safe. Paquette called this the activation relationship, and it turns out it's not just noise and roughhousing, it's a kind of practice. Here's the part that should take the pressure off completely. Follow-up research on this same pattern found it showing up across very different kinds of families. Different income levels, different living situations, two-parent homes, single-father homes, blended families. This isn't a middle-class phenomenon requiring a big backyard or a special toy. It shows up on a studio apartment floor exactly the way it shows up anywhere else. It costs nothing. It requires no equipment. It just requires you, tuned in, present. Because that's the real engine underneath all of it. Not the lifting, not the noise, but the tuning in.
A father who notices when the thrill is turning into real distress and eases the game back down before it tips over. A father who reads the room, or really reads the baby, moment to moment. Say your baby's face shifts from delight to overwhelmed mid-bounce. You might slow down, pull them close, and say something as simple as, "Whoa, that was a big one, huh? I've got you." That small adjustment, dialing the intensity up, then back down, in response to what your baby is actually feeling, is the whole mechanism. It's not about being wild, it's about being wildly attentive.
There's a study that captures this in a way that's hard to forget. Researchers led by Judy Flanders followed fathers and toddlers through exactly this kind of rough and tumble play. The chasing, the tipping upside down, the mock roaring, and then tracked those same children's ability to manage big emotions later on. The kids whose fathers played this way and stayed responsive while doing it showed stronger self-regulation. Not because the play itself taught anything directly, but because every round was a tiny rehearsal. Get excited. Feel almost out of control. Come back down to calm, safely, with someone watching. Over and over, in the safest possible setting, your baby is practicing the exact skill they'll need for the rest of their life, feeling a huge feeling and finding their way back from it. If you're listening to this and thinking about all the nights you were too tired to get on the floor or too stressed to do the silly voices, let this take some weight off your shoulders. This isn't about never missing a moment. Nobody's tracking a scorecard.
It's not about being a flawless father who nails every interaction. It's about being a present one, showing up in the ordinary, imperfect moments, more often than not. So what does this actually look like tonight? 4 small things, none of them requiring more than a few minutes. First, get low. Get down to your baby's eye level instead of playing from a standing position or the couch. Presence starts there. Second, follow their lead for a moment before you introduce anything new. Watch what they're already doing, what they're already reaching for. Third, add a small challenge. Lift them a little higher than usual. Make a silly sound they don't expect. Tip them gently backward and catch them. Then, watch their face. Fourth, and this is the one that matters most, when you see the thrill tip toward too much, slow down and narrate it. Something as simple as, "That was a lot, wasn't it? Let's take a breath," said softly while you pull them in close. None of this requires a plan. It requires 5 minutes and your attention. There's a whole industry built around convincing you that your baby's brain needs something you have to buy. Flashcard sets promising early reading, apps with a monthly subscription and a dashboard tracking milestones, classes with wait lists and price tags that make you feel like you're already behind if you haven't signed up. None of it is inherently bad, but none of it does what you do for free on an ordinary living room floor. Because your baby isn't building their brain from a screen or a flashcard. They're building it from a look that lands right when they glance up unsure, from a sound answered the instant they make it, from being lifted into the air by the person whose voice they already trust and set back down gently the second it's too much. Those are the moments too small to photograph and too ordinary to post about, and they're exactly the ones your baby's whole nervous system is quietly built from. You don't need a special skill for this. You already have the only thing required. You, paying attention, showing up again tomorrow, even though today wasn't perfect. That's not a small thing. That's the entire job, and you're already doing it just by caring enough to ask what more you could do.
If this changed how you think about the 5 minutes on the floor tonight, hit subscribe. Every week, we bring you the real research behind what's actually happening inside your baby's mind. No fear-mongering, no guilt, just the science. And if you think another tired dad out there needs to hear this tonight, a quick like helps this find them. Because your baby won't remember the flashcards. They'll remember the feeling of being thrown into the air by someone who always caught them. That's it for today. Until next time, keep building the brain that's building itself.